Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us, and welcome to the 5th annual ICV conference, Catalyzing Growth in Emerging Markets. I'm really pleased to see so many people here today, and I think we're in for a really fantastic event. Yesterday, we had a chance to learn about how robust partnerships are transforming how the public, private, and social sectors relate not just to one another, but to the world and the challenges and opportunities we all encounter. Today we'll get a bit more tactical and look at how ICV projects become a microcosm of a public-private partnership, taking them to the human scale. In ICV programs, corporations contribute time, talent, and expertise of their employees, directly supporting the work of the public and private sectors. Actually, the social sectors, they're pretty good at supporting themselves, I think. These programs truly represent purposeful engagement that goes beyond checkbook philanthropy and creates shared value by engaging hearts and minds of corporate employees. It's hard to believe, actually, that this is our 5th annual conference. It was just a few years ago that we hosted what we at the time called a workshop in the offices of our pro bono law firm. We had just 50 people in attendance, but it was a great success. Well, a lot of things have changed over the past few years, not the least of which is my frequent flyer status. There are themes that were just emerging in 2009 that have come into focus today. These programs have always been about developing leadership competencies. Increasingly, we are seeing that the leadership sweet spot they hit is in improving adaptability and the ability of already strong performers to learn from their environment and to take the opportunity to be a pathfinder. Recently, a Pepsi Corps team was working in South Africa with Heifer International. A component of the project was to work with farmers in possibly developing a beekeepers association. The challenge was that the idea of promoting beekeeping had come from a feasibility study. The farmers were not seasoned honey producers. The Pepsi Corps participant, Mike, who is also not a seasoned honey producer, took it upon himself to become the designated bee expert. By the end of his 4 weeks in country, Mike had worked with the farmers to create a beekeepers association and then even created a tool for a local NGO to assess the region for additional beekeeping activities. In today's economy, we must all learn to some extent to be beekeepers, to learn a completely new skill from scratch and work with others to develop an approach to make it work. ICV provides the space for this to happen, as participating employees are removed from their comfort zone and challenged to stretch their soft and hard skills. Another ICV aspect that has actually been apparent from the beginning is that it indeed proves that necessity is the mother of invention, and that when smart people are placed with a challenge, they figure out a way to address it. The very first IBM Corporate Service Corps team to Ghana, all the way back in 2008, exemplified this. The team of 10 was placed in a guest house in Kumasi that was not wired for internet. To some extent, this was by design, to encourage them to seek out internet cafes as a way to interact with the community. Clearly, we underestimated the draw of connectivity, and by the end of the first week in country, the team had wired the entire guest house for internet, not only easing their own access to technology, but providing the guest house with an entirely new service to attract new customers. Finally, we have to briefly talk about impact. At Pyxera Global, we sometimes say that we don't do what we do out of the goodness of our heart, though I can honestly say I work with some of the biggest-hearted people in the world. We do it to have an impact, to make a change. ICV programs enable that change to happen in multiple directions. With the participants, who we hope are provided with a new perspective, who are encouraged to stretch their talents, and whom we hope are taking a bit of the culture they were experiencing back to their daily lives. For the local clients, it's not just access to skills that might be out of reach. It's also an opportunity to change perspective. I often hear from a local client who will say, you know, it's not just the work they did. That was great. We have a new tool or a new fundraising strategy or whatever the deliverable was. The best part of the experience for us was the way the team approached the challenge. Process is so often missing in organizations that are struggling to meet what can seem to be overwhelming need. This is only multiplied in emerging markets where scarce resources, financial, human, otherwise, are often force organizations to react to an emerging operational crisis that takes away from their ability to address their core mission. If the private sector, especially the large multinational firms we often work with, is good at anything, it's process. It's anticipating what might happen and putting in place the steps to address it appropriately before it becomes a real problem. We all know stories and testimonials are great, but we need the numbers to back them up. For the past 5 years, Pyxera Global has conducted a benchmarking survey of companies that have ICV programs. We're pretty confident that there are about 39 companies in the world that have some type of formal program. We were able to gather data from 26 of them in assessing the state of the practice this year. So what do we know? ICV is still relatively new. Even the oldest programs are only about 10 years old, but it's growing. Based on our survey, over 9,000 people will have participated in a program by the end of this year. That's about 2,000 more than the end of last year. In 2006, the first year for which we have numbers, 5 countries received an ICV project. The total number of countries that had received a project by the end of last year was up to 80. Participating employees had been recruited from about 50 countries. Since we're talking about international corporate volunteer programs, this might not be surprising, but I actually think this is really critical. In addition to the social and business impact of these programs, they also represent a form of citizen diplomacy. We can talk all we want about how the internet has created a global world, but real connections are made by human-to-human contact, and I think that's only strengthened when you're in a new place working towards a common goal. Our research also shows that teaming is a critical aspect of these programs. The ability to successfully operate in a group that is composed of not only Americans, but of Germans and Brazilians and Chinese and Egyptians is how global success is achieved today. Nearly 90% of programs have at least some sort of team-based component, and 75% of them have at least 6 people on them. So now we know that most programs consist of teams, and that they are increasingly made up of international cohorts. But what do they do, and how long do they do it for? The average project length is about 4 weeks. This seems to hit a sweet spot. It's enough for a significant deliverable to be developed and for the participants to get a real taste of living in a host community. But it doesn't take people away from their day jobs or their families too long to be a burden. However, successful programs can be 1 week in country, and fellowship programs often last for 3 to 6 months. We are also seeing an increase in virtual or combination virtual and in-person programs. While some of the benefits of more traditional programs might be missed, the virtual aspect does open them up to employees who might not otherwise be able to participate. For the first time this year, we asked respondents if their program had a topic or theme it was developed to address. Microfinance and healthcare came out on top, with 18% and 17% respectively. But what's more interesting is how spread these programs actually are with regards to their focus. Economic growth, education, and women's empowerment came in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But as you can see, just about every topic in development is addressed. Because they are bringing business talent to the table, ICV programs are almost infinitely adaptable. They help to create the space for beneficiary organizations, be they a local or international NGO, a government entity, or even a social enterprise, to focus on their core mission with improved operational acumen. A full 85% of responding companies work with an implementing partner to operationalize or facilitate their program. More than half of the programs have less than 1 full-time employee supporting them, so this is perhaps not surprising. However, it's also clear that implementing partners are seen as strategic as well as operational partners. One of the more interesting trends highlighted in this year's survey was the growing interest in partnering among corporations. A full 75% of responding companies either have partnered or would like to pursue partnership with another company. It's been interesting over the years to see how these partnerships have evolved from parallel projects, where there were participants from different companies in the same cohort but working on different projects, to fully integrated teams with employees from 2 or more companies working together on the same projects. We've also seen an increase in more strategic project development, where a team from one company might work with a local client on a specific topic and tee it up for a team from a second company that brings different expertise. This is actually what gets me really excited. If we can bring the diverse expertise of different sectors of the private sector to bear in a strategic and concerted effort to systematically address some of the tough global challenges we are facing, I think we have a real opportunity to move the needle on solving them. As great a potential as the future might hold, we need to show impact today to continue to grow the practice, measuring, capturing, and reporting on impact. At Pyxera Global, we tend to break impact into 3 broad categories for our clients: impact on the participant, impact on the local client, and impact on the business. With just a few exceptions, these programs almost always have an employee development component. 69% of companies listed leadership development as the most important aspect of their program with regards to employee impact. This was followed by cultural adaptability and professional skills development and team building. From the participating employee's perspective, the ability to use their professional skills in a new way takes the top spot at 22%, followed by cross-cultural adaptability and the ability to broaden their network within the company. I think this is pretty interesting. ICV programs, you see, not only break down barriers across international borders, they also break down the silos across business functions within a company. From a business impact side, the picture is a little bit less clear, and this probably makes sense. Measuring causality to bottom line impact is a real challenge. However, gaining a better understanding of opportunities and challenges in emerging markets is the clear winner. From the CSR perspective, ICV programs are seen as having a substantial impact on local communities, and they provide a way to engage employees in the overall CSR strategy. Testimonials remain the way most companies are capturing both social and business impact. I think this is a real growth opportunity for the sector. While stories and pictures are great, we need to improve our ability to capture, analyze, and report on quantitative results to better understand the real impact. Though we know there are challenges in capturing impact, we also know these programs are a success. 89% of responding companies were extremely or very pleased with their program and thought that they were successful in meeting their stated objectives. When asked what they thought their keys to success were, the following emerged consistently. Tie the program to the strategic objectives of the company. Make sure to tell your story well, both internally and externally. Ensure you have senior leadership support. A full 75% of programs surveyed had visibility at the CEO level. And finally, be flexible and oriented towards your beneficiaries' needs. I've been working in global pro bono for most of my career, and specifically on corporate programs for about half of it. I truly believe we are just at a tipping point, and that the future is wide open on these initiatives to meet all our goals. One of the great things about international corporate volunteer programs is that they take cross-sector engagement out of the meeting room and into people's lives. By developing the types of relationships that come out of ICV programs, we have a real chance to make substantial progress towards addressing some really complex global challenges. We have some great sessions today, and I think we'll really highlight exactly how that is happening. Thank you so much for coming, and I look forward to connecting with you all throughout the rest of the day. Thanks.